Brand new bikes, 0 miles, still sitting on showroom floors. From sport bikes to cruisers, dealerships across America are drowning in inventory they can't sell. Some have been parked for over a year, engines untouched, tires going flat, and price tags quietly dropping. Why are they piling up? What happens when a motorcycle sits too long? And how far will dealers go to get rid of them? We're pulling back the curtain on the motorcycle industry's biggest problem: unsold inventory. If you've ever wondered what happens to a bike nobody buys, stick around. The Forgotten Rows. All across the U.S., riders are passing by dealership lots filled with brand new sport bikes, cruisers, and adventure machines collecting dust. From Harley Davidson Pan Americas to Yamaha MT-07s, some of these bikes have been parked under the sun and fluorescent lights for hundreds of days. Never ridden, never sold, and barely even touched. It's the kind of mystery that sparks curiosity. How could something so expensive, meticulously designed, and built for the open road end up as an ornament in a showroom window? The truth is, these forgotten rows are a visual symptom of a much deeper problem in the motorcycle industry. As demand fluctuates, consumer habits shift, and financing becomes more difficult to secure, these motorcycles transform from shiny assets into costly burdens. Take a walk through some of the larger dealership networks, and you'll find entire sections filled with bikes that are no longer current year models. Some still have the plastic factory wrap, others have deflated tires or dust forming around the engine covers. They represent a financial standstill, machines waiting for a future that may never come. And while some may eventually be sold with deep discounts or repurposed as demos, many will simply remain where they are, hidden in plain sight until someone finds a way to move them. But to understand how this backlog begins, we have to talk about how the business model dealerships are built on. The business behind the bikes. Dealers don't own those bikes, they owe for them. That's the part most consumers never realize. When a shiny new motorcycle rolls off the delivery truck and onto the showroom floor, it's not sitting there fully paid for by the dealership. It's financed through a system called floor planning. Essentially, the dealership borrows money to get that bike from the manufacturer, agreeing to pay back the loan over time, with interest. Each month that bike remains unsold, the dealership is paying interest on it. It also pays for the space it takes up, the insurance to cover it, and the staffing required to maintain and display it. When that inventory lingers too long, the costs quickly snowball. A motorcycle that seemed like a great addition to the lineup can turn into a financial sinkhole within a few months. And the problem doesn't end there. If a dealership has too much aging inventory, it affects everything, from cash flow to credit limits. It might limit their ability to order new bikes that could sell faster. It might even affect their ability to keep the lights on. That's why some dealers become desperate to move bikes, offering huge discounts, cash incentives, or even taking losses just to free up capital and space. Dealers know that every day an unsold motorcycle sits on the floor is another day of bleeding money. But where does this inventory problem begin? It's not always the dealer's fault. Sometimes the real mistake happens long before the bike ever reaches the showroom. How forecasts fail. A bike built for everyone sometimes ends up selling to no one. That's the harsh reality of forecasting in the motorcycle industry. Manufacturers rely on a mix of past sales data, dealer feedback, and market predictions to decide what bikes to produce and how many. On paper, it's all very calculated. But in reality, consumer preferences can shift faster than production cycles can adapt. Take the rise of electric motorcycles as an example. When companies like Harley Davidson launched the Livewire, it was supposed to signal a bold new direction. But pricing missteps, infrastructure concerns, and consumer hesitation led to stockpiles of unsold electric models. Similarly, adventure bikes became the new industry darling for a few years, but not every rider was ready to trade their cruiser or sport bike for something taller and pricier. Sometimes it's as simple as misreading trends. A matte black cafe racer might be hot one year and completely cold the next. Or manufacturers might overproduce a high-end model, assuming premium buyers will show up in droves, only to find that most consumers are hunting for affordability, not luxury. Once the bikes are built, there's no turning back. They're shipped to dealers where they either sell fast or sit indefinitely. And the cost of these mistakes? It's measured in the millions. Warehousing fees, floor plan interest, lost resale value, missed opportunities to focus on models that consumers actually want. One wrong forecast can leave an entire product line in limbo, and that's when the next problem kicks in, because time is not on anyone's side. When a new bike becomes a problem, 60 days is the deadline. After that, every motorcycle becomes a liability. That's the unofficial window most dealerships aim for. Get the bike in, get it out, and move on. If a motorcycle sells within 60 to 90 days of arrival, the system works. Floor plan interest stays manageable. Cash flow remains healthy. Inventory rotates efficiently. But once that bike crosses the 60-day mark without a buyer, the clock starts ticking loudly. The dealership starts losing money on every level. It might be stuck paying interest with no return. The staff may have to spend time moving, cleaning, and maintaining the bike instead of focusing on newer models. And worse, the bike itself begins to lose appeal. Customers notice when a bike has been sitting too long. It looks dated, feels neglected, and often gets passed over in favor of fresher stock. At this point, the dealership faces tough decisions. Cut the price and take a loss? Reclassify it as used? Ship it off to auction? None of these options are ideal, but they're better than letting the bike drag down the entire balance sheet. And for some models, especially those with limited appeal or high price tags, this 60-day window becomes a ticking time bomb. By the time a motorcycle is sat for 150, 200, or even 300 days, it's practically radioactive. No customer wants it, no dealer wants to talk about it, and the manufacturer has already moved on to the next year's lineup. And yet thousands of these motorcycles still sit in showrooms across America. Silent reminders of how even the most well-built machine can become a burden when timing and demand fall out of sync. So the next time you pass by a row of untouched bikes behind a dealership window, you'll know the story behind them. They're not just unsold, they're slowly becoming unsellable. And what happens next? That's where the real challenge begins. The price slashing game. From $15,000 to $12,000 overnight, how far will dealers go? That is not just a rhetorical question anymore. It is the brutal reality of a dealership facing financial pressure by the day. When motorcycles sit unsold for longer than 90 days, every moment becomes a loss. To counter that, dealerships resort to the most immediate tactic in their arsenal: price slashing. Price reductions are usually the first line of defense. Take a bike like the Yamaha MT-07. If it lingers on the floor past its prime selling window, dealers might slash its price by 10 to 15%, sometimes more. Suddenly, a bike listed for $9,500 is going for closer to $8,000, and it is not just Yamaha. Harley Davidson, Kawasaki, and even BMW dealers are cutting prices aggressively. Discounts on touring bikes and cruisers have reached up to $3,000 off MSRP, and that is before factory incentives kick in. Manufacturers are not standing idly by either. They offer dealers rebate programs, cashback deals, and temporary buyback assurances to help ease the burden of unsold inventory. In some cases, the manufacturer covers part of the cost of a discount, especially if the model is nearing its next generation. Harley might offer 0% financing for 36 months on a model they are quietly preparing to discontinue. Kawasaki may throw in an extended 5-year warranty to sweeten the deal. Bundled incentives have become standard practice. Buyers are lured with free riding gear, maintenance plans, and dealership credits just to say yes to a bike that has been stuck in the corner for months. These bundles are designed to preserve pricing optics while still offering real value. After all, a $1,200 helmet and jacket combo looks better than knocking that same amount off the MSRP, but even these tactics are losing their power. Consumers are increasingly wise to dealer desperation. They know when a markdown is a genuine deal or a carefully disguised inventory purge. That is when dealers get creative. But what happens when price cuts are not enough to make a sale? That is when a brand new bike takes on a second life, as a used one, turning new bikes into used ones. The trick? Ride it just enough to call it used, then slash the price. This may sound like a loophole, but it is actually a deliberate strategy many dealerships deploy when new inventory refuses to move. Turning a new bike into a used one opens up new pricing flexibility without signaling panic. One of the most common tactics is the loaner fleet. When customers bring their motorcycles in for servicing, some dealerships offer a courtesy loaner, and that loaner just happens to be a brand new motorcycle that is not sold. Over a few weeks, the bike racks up a few hundred miles. That is enough to classify it as used. With that single move, dealers can relist it at a much lower price without damaging the perceived value of other new bikes on the floor. Another route: employee demos. Sales managers, techs, even finance officers may be assigned demo bikes that they ride for a month or two. This not only helps the staff understand the product better, but it also preps the bike for used classification. These bikes return to the showroom as certified pre-owned, now boasting both a manufacturer-backed warranty and a slightly reduced price tag. Certified pre-owned, or CPO, programs are a critical part of this strategy. They give unsold new bikes a second chance under a more appealing label. Consumers love CPO units because they offer near-new condition, manufacturer-backed protection, and lower prices. Meanwhile, the dealership saves face by not having to publicly admit the model was a flop. The goal is to shift perception. A bike that sat unsold for 6 months becomes a lightly ridden CPO deal with a bonus warranty. Suddenly, what once looked like a failure becomes a find. And when that does not work, sometimes the answer lies not in rebranding the bike, but relocating it entirely. Because while one bike gathers dust in Ohio, another flies off the lot in Arizona. The Great Dealer Swap. In New York, it will not sell, but in Colorado, it flies off the lot. This is not just a hypothetical, it is how dealership networks quietly keep the wheels turning. The Great Dealer Swap is an under-the-radar system where inventory moves across state lines in search of more fertile ground. Different regions have wildly different buying habits. A supersport that is dead weight in a farming town might be a weekend staple in a coastal city. A Harley touring model might stall in San Francisco, but be a hot commodity in rural Texas. Dealers know this, and they act accordingly. When one location is drowning in a specific model, they reach out to another franchisee and propose a trade. These trades are not always one-for-one. Sometimes the dealer will swap 3 underperforming middleweights for a single high-demand adventure bike. It all depends on regional taste and urgency. Shipping costs are factored in, but compared to sitting on interest-charged inventory, it is often worth the price. Swaps can also include color options and trims that underperform in one region but thrive in another. A matte black Ducati Monster might get overlooked in Miami but become a top seller in Portland. These microtrends matter more than ever in a market where every sale counts. Dealer swaps help keep showroom floors fresh and give each bike its best chance at finding a buyer. They also strengthen relationships between franchises, fostering cooperation over competition. But sometimes, even that level of coordination is not enough. When a bike truly will not move, it gets one last ride, straight to auction. And that is where unsold motorcycles face their final chapter. A quiet, ruthless marketplace most riders never see. The final stop: auction. When no one wants it, it is time to offload it to the wolves. Auctions are where motorcycles go when all other options have failed. They are the graveyard of sales dreams and the launch pad for second chances, depending on who shows up to bid. There are 2 types of auctions: closed and open. Closed auctions are limited to franchise dealers of a particular brand. A Yamaha dealer, for instance, might attend a Yamaha-only auction to buy or offload overstock. These events are usually more controlled and maintain higher pricing floors. Open auctions, however, are the Wild West. Any licensed dealer can participate, and that means prices can plunge fast. Independent used bike dealers, rental companies, even overseas buyers flock to these auctions looking to scoop up stock for pennies on the dollar. The largest player in this space is Manheim, a national chain of vehicle auctions owned by Cox Automotive. They hold motorcycle auctions on a weekly basis, processing thousands of bikes. A Harley that sat unsold for a year might fetch just $9,000 at auction, a hard loss for the dealer but a clean slate. Rental companies are frequent buyers. Ever rented a motorcycle on vacation? There's a chance it came from an auction repurposed as fleet inventory. These bikes might have failed to sell to private owners but find second lives in commercial use. For dealers, auctioning off a bike is a last resort, but often a necessary one. Every day a bike sits costs money. Insurance, floor plan interest, and floor space all drain resources. Selling at a loss is sometimes better than not selling at all. Auctions are not glamorous. They are fast, brutal, and often unprofitable, but they are a crucial part of the ecosystem that keeps the motorcycle industry from drowning in its own excess. But while auctions may offer a clean break, they also reveal a deeper truth, that even the strongest discounting tactics have their limits. A buyer's market. If you time it right, you could get a new bike for the price of a used one. That is not just clickbait. It is the real situation thousands of savvy riders are already jumping on. In this phase of the motorcycle market crash, dealerships are not only slashing prices, they are practically begging buyers to walk in. Between manufacturer incentives, dealer-level markdowns, and certified pre-owned programs, this is shaping up to be the most buyer-friendly moment we've seen in over a decade. Buyers who do their research and act strategically can score incredible deals on bikes that were once completely out of reach. It is not uncommon now to see new 2022 models listed with discounts of 20 to 30% below original MSRP. Some dealerships are even tossing in 0% financing for 36 months, or bundling accessories like helmets, jackets, and maintenance credits just to get bikes off the lot. In short, if you were ever thinking of buying, now is the time to make your move. But there is a catch. This window will not last forever. As inventories eventually clear and manufacturers adjust production, prices will stabilize again. That means the best deals will go to the riders who know how to negotiate, understand floor planning pressure, and can spot a desperate dealer from a mile away. If you are holding out, thinking prices will continue falling indefinitely, you could miss the sweet spot. CPO motorcycles are also worth watching. These certified pre-owned models are often demo bikes, loaner fleet units, or lightly used showroom rides that are reclassified and sold with manufacturer-backed warranties. They offer nearly new condition with a used bike price tag, making them one of the smartest plays in this saturated market. Since they are technically used, dealers can move them without waiting for manufacturer clearance. That flexibility makes them a hidden gem for smart buyers. So while the industry may be struggling, riders with a good credit score, patience, and timing could walk away with the deal of a lifetime. But if you are not looking to own forever, a new kind of opportunity is emerging, and it might change everything. And that brings us to the next evolution of motorcycling, an ownership model that does not involve owning at all. Subscription bikes and new ownership models. Why buy a bike when you can rent one long-term? It sounds futuristic, maybe even risky, but it is already happening. As the motorcycle industry adapts to shifting demand, brands and startups alike are experimenting with radically different business models. One of the fastest growing trends is motorcycle subscriptions. Think of it as Netflix for bikes. Pay a monthly fee, ride a brand new motorcycle, and swap it out when you are ready for something new. Subscription services appeal to younger riders who are hesitant to commit to long-term financing, especially in a market full of uncertainty. Companies like Twisted Road, Rider Share, and even select dealership groups now offer monthly plans that cover insurance, maintenance, and upgrades, all without a traditional loan. In a world where vehicle ownership is slowly declining, motorcycle subscriptions offer freedom without the burden of long-term debt. Short-term leasing is also picking up steam. Some manufacturers, rather than offloading overstocked inventory at fire sale prices, are testing short-cycle leasing plans. These programs allow riders to lease a motorcycle for 6 to 12 months at a reduced rate. It is a win-win. Manufacturers move inventory and riders get access to new bikes without massive upfront costs. Then there is the shift toward made-to-order retail. To avoid the embarrassment of unsold rows of bikes, some companies are adopting custom-order production runs. Instead of sending dealers bulk shipments, they wait until buyers place an order, then build the bike and ship it directly. This reduces inventory risk, lowers dealer overhead, and gives buyers more personalization options. All of these changes reflect a broader shift. Riders no longer see motorcycles as permanent assets. They see them as experiences. Just like people rotate smartphones, apartments, or even careers more frequently than ever, the same logic is starting to apply to motorcycle ownership. And for an industry trying to survive oversupply and under demand, this mindset shift may be its best chance at long-term recovery. But while the models evolve, there is still one group caught in the middle of it all: the people who live and breathe motorcycles every day. The people behind the panic. Sales reps, mechanics, managers. They are the ones holding the bag. While corporate execs adjust forecasts and analysts debate the future, dealership employees are the first to feel the weight of an inventory crisis. These are not faceless workers. They are motorcycle lovers, many of whom got into the business because of their passion for riding. When bikes do not sell, it is not just an abstract loss. It is commissions that vanish, service appointments that dry up, and morale that plummets. In smaller towns where the local motorcycle shop has been a community staple for decades, slow sales can threaten the entire business. Longtime employees are being asked to cut hours, pick up extra duties, or worse, walk away entirely. Technicians are under unique stress too. As service departments shrink to match declining foot traffic, these skilled workers are finding fewer opportunities and stagnant wages. Meanwhile, sales staff are stuck explaining why a 2022 model is still on the floor in 2024, or why the price dropped $5,000 from what a customer paid last year. It is a customer service nightmare. Managers face the impossible task of moving inventory while balancing budgets. They have to walk a fine line between clearing stock and preserving brand reputation. And yet these employees remain the lifeblood of the industry. They are the ones who maintain the bikes, run the events, host demo days, and build local rider communities. When the market crashes, they are the unsung casualties. But they are also the ones who keep showing up. That loyalty matters, and it is why even in the darkest stretches of oversupply, hope still exists in the most unexpected places. Because no matter how many bikes gather dust, there is always a story waiting to be written. But before we go to the next bike, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you like this video so far. Every bike has a story. That dusty showroom bike, it is just waiting for a second chance. And believe it or not, most of them get one. Every motorcycle, no matter how long it sits unsold, eventually finds a home. Whether it becomes a demo, gets sold at auction, finds a new life overseas, or becomes a rider's first big purchase, there is always another chapter. There is something poetic about it. The same bike that was ignored by dozens of walk-in customers might one day be the centerpiece of someone's garage. It might carry a new rider on their first cross-country trip. It might be rebuilt, repainted, or customized into a showpiece. Or maybe it just becomes a weekend escape machine for someone who finally found the deal they were waiting for. Behind every price tag is potential. Behind every markdown is a missed forecast, a supply chain glitch, or a marketing misstep. But none of that matters once the right rider finds the right bike. And while the industry might obsess over numbers, margins, and days on lot, the heart of motorcycling has always been personal. It is not about trends or resale value. It is about freedom, identity, and the unique connection between human and machine. Unsold bikes may seem like failures on paper, but to the right person, they are just waiting for the journey to begin. And that is the final twist in the tale. Even in an industry rocked by volatility, with warehouses full of overstock and spreadsheets full of red ink, motorcycles still mean something. They still inspire. They still move people. And no matter how long they wait, they never lose their story. So now you know what really happens to new motorcycles that never sell. But here's the question: would you take one of these bikes home if the dealer offered a deep enough discount? Leave a comment and tell us how much of a markdown it would take for you to buy an unsold bike. We want to see who's ready to score a deal and who's walking watching. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.